iDS Talks is a podcast dedicated to helping corporations and law firms find new and effective ways to leverage data, giving them a decisive advantage both in and out of the courtroom.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of iDS Talks. My name is Jonathan Sachs, Chief Revenue Officer at iDS, and I'm joined today by Melissa Shillinglaw, Director of Talent and Experience at iDS. We're here today to talk about building a career in legal technology and data services. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thrilled to have you here. So, all right, full disclosure, I'm excited today because normally Melissa is the one who has to listen to me do all the talking with the stories I have. Today I get to listen to her stories, listen to her share her knowledge. Little shout out to Hunter McMahon for those watching on our YouTube channel. You'll notice I'm not in a polo shirt. I am in another piece of our branded gear. It's a little more sporty. That is because I feel like I needed to bring a little sporty spice to this podcast. Melissa, quite the athlete, playing basketball and soccer. And of course, got to talk about the Blue Hen alumni from UDEL. Shout out. Didn't go there, but Melissa did. Okay, but we're not here to talk about sports or college, though we certainly could. I have some questions specific to our topic, which is, again, building a career in legal technology and data services. And I know based on your background, you've been with iDS for, I won't say how many years, I'll let you say it, but that's really given you some insight into this industry from a decade ago to where we are today, which seems like it's rapidly evolving. So let's start with the basics. What types of roles exist today in the area of legal tech and data services, particularly with respect to iDS?
Absolutely. I like to break it down. When I think about it, is the data services side, as you mentioned, and the consulting expert services side. At least that's how we talk and think a lot of it at iDS. So from a data services perspective, we have our engineers who are processing and hosting engineers, or a lot of the industry, and we call them e-discovery analysts as well. So they're the ones in the tools and technology, OCRing, in relativity, and so forth. We also have the project managers, as you know, which we call discovery services consultants. So I'll refer to those as DSCs for this conversation. From the consulting expert services side, I think our structure consists of junior consultants all the way up through senior managing consultant and often team leads. So the most senior level before making that jump to director, as you know, who is the doer seller role. So they're expert level consultants with a revenue generating function to the component. Within RevGen and RevGen support, iDS has also developed business development managers, or BDMs, the sellers, and the client success managers, or what we refer to as CSMs, who are really providing that support from LOE and conflicts all the way through, or conflicts and LOE all the way throughout the kind of project life cycle.
So we've got...
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, so we've got engineers. We've got people with project management experience. You've got people who are probably process oriented from a client engagement, onboarding side of the house. You've got the experts in the particular areas and services that iDS offers. And then you've got some folks who are trained sales professionals.
Yep.
So we've got a smorgasbord of roles here.
Sure. And we can't forget our back office. So the operations, or the overhead of talent.
No, not overhead.
Oh.
Not overhead, Melissa. Let's not sell you and others short. They are the backbone of the company.
Right, exactly.
So let me ask the follow-on question, which is, how have you seen these roles evolve over the past few years? Because honestly, I've seen the roles change within a year or two, depending on technology, direction a company goes, anything like that. So how have you, in your experience, seen these evolve?
That's one of the things that has made my job a lot of fun, and what I appreciate a lot about IDS is we really have the ability to be nimble and flexible and pivot based on what's going on within IDS that we're seeing out in the industry, but also what our clients' needs are too. And I know just the amount of time you've been with IDS too, we've developed new roles, we have changed the focus and the function of some roles. So it's a lot of fun and collaboration based on, what we're seeing in the market, what our clients need, and then how do we align that internally and within our structure and organization. But I think generally speaking, I've seen it shift from the true focus of technical skills, which includes a lot of and the mastery of industry tools, the scripting and automation that we talk about, but then also has, I think, evolved to really emphasize the core, or what people refer to as soft skills, such as consultative approach, that problem solving, innovation, communication internally and externally, and then that project and client management. I think what we've learned is that technical skills are important. They really are, and they get you in the door. It's how you can be the best practitioner, or a very good practitioner, and get those tasks done. But where I've seen us focus and shift a lot more is really that emphasis and the coaching and mentorship and management around some of those core skills that really kind of bring the whole person full circle from a true consultant.
Yeah, one of the things that impresses me about IDS, and like you, I'm a big fan. Um, the two things. One is I appreciate the fact that we have the ability to be flexible and to assess and reassess and be able to implement in pretty short order. I'm talking specifically about the type of roles that we're hiring. In my role as a CRO, looking at what kind of sales support do we need to engage our clients and bring in new clients. That you mentioned the consultative or consultative, depending tomato. It's not like we have our London team on, so we don't have to be too perfect on that. But the consultative approach, really making sure that all of our employees are curious, not judgmental, that they ask questions, want to understand what's going on. And I think, frankly, from top down, we encourage people not to be what others call order takers, but to really understand what they're trying to do. And that is a skill that I know you look for when we're interviewing, and when we find talent, we are willing to help coach and mentor on.
Sure. And one that is more difficult to assess from an interview standpoint, and also more difficult to train. We've found that it's easier to train folks on the technical skills. So if we see the potential or even some foundation or demonstrative experience of some of those core soft skills, we've just seen so much success.
All right. So I love that you use the word skills, because that's a nice segue to the next question.
Great.
And it's a little complicated, so I don't need you to go through all the roles here at IDS, but I'll let you answer how you want. You are the guest, after all. So what, in your mind, what are the key skills and perhaps qualifications that individuals should focus on to build a successful career in the field? So actually, let's focus on skills and qualifications. I'm not talking certifications yet. I want that to be part 2.
Okay, sure. I think of it in kind of a 3-prong or 3-column approach. So technical skills, as we just talked about, legal knowledge, and then the project management abilities, and the continuous learning to adapt to new tools and industry trends and developments, like we have seen and have talked about also. From a technical skill set perspective, that's your true industry tools. What tools does IDS use in-house? The familiarity use of databases, scripting languages, when we talk about automation, optimization of tools, and so forth. So it's those technical skills or the technical aptitude to learn and pick those up and adapt as we bring in new tools. From a legal knowledge perspective, I think about the understanding of the EDRM, legal procedures, especially as it's related to litigation, investigations, compliance. I've seen folks or colleagues that have the ability to understand what is the client going through right now and how can we best support them. So whether it's
Right.
litigation hold, subpoenas, expert testimony, chain of custody, what is that legal knowledge that is really critical and adds just an extra competitive layer, I think. The project management ability as well. Communication as number one, both internally and externally, whether it's written and oral. We focus a lot on both of that. So it's taking those technical concepts and translating them to most of which are non-technical clients, asking the questions to understand, as you mentioned earlier, their goals, their expectations. From an internal perspective, the management of those projects, once they're on your plate and you're working on them, proactively raising any issues, flagging or escalating roadblocks to whether it's the client or to whether it's the project owner. That has been, I think, the difference between where directors want to work with a consultant nonstop, or a colleague that says, wow, I appreciate you provided that update for me before I even had to ask for it. I think we all understand and the value of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So then let's go on to what I think is a little more interesting conversation through a question.
Yes.
Are there any specific certifications or degrees that can give people a competitive edge? I have my take on it, so that's why we'll see where you come out on this one.
Yes, I'd love to hear how you come out. What I've seen, to answer your question short, I think I have seen from the data services side, there are certifications like Relativity, especially RCA, Relativity Master, that give a strong competitive edge when you're in the engineer seat or the DSC project management seat. There's also some certifications within digital forensics that I think clients like to see, and the industry, like CFCE, GCFE, NCASE, ACE, the access data, where it really, I think, provides that, almost establishment of knowledge in those tools and so forth. I will say that it is, I think, a controversial topic, and I have my feeling on both ways as well. I think we know clients like to see them. We know there's that certain level of sophistication in that establishment of knowledge and common language. I think there is that it shows the commitment to learning and staying abreast of the ever-changing technologies and practices. That said, I think there's some can argue that they don't reflect real world and practical problem solving. And we've seen that. So when I look at resumes and I'm interviewing folks, I see it as one piece of the puzzle. And we also talk it a lot internally as I'm coaching folks around their professional development goals. It is just one piece of the puzzle. So then it really becomes of, why are you interested in that certification? How do you feel like it's going to add value to who you are and what you bring to clients and iDS?
Yep. So I think you and I are very similar in our thought on this. There are certain certifications that are industry standard, and frankly, industry expected. You mentioned a couple, particularly in the forensic space. Then there are some that I think are more like flair that you used to wear if you went to TGI Fridays and you were a server. You got to add it to your suspenders.
Right.
A lot of alphabet soup thrown at the end of a business card.
I like that. I
To
like
the extent
that.
people actually still have business cards, I do. If you want one, reach out. I'll send it to you. But I think that's got to be an important piece to it. It is, am I simply looking to get congratulations on LinkedIn because I've completed some certification? I don't know how much value there is in it. And I do still think there's a lot to be said for the on-the-job training and experience that you get that you don't necessarily need a certification for. With respect to degrees, that's always changing.
Hmm.
You can have someone who's got an English degree from college and then gets PMP certified, and now they're a great project manager. You can have someone who's a computer science major, but that person has really strong people skills, and so they're not going to write code, but they're going to be a consultant because they can understand how to talk to people and they understand the techie side. I mean, look, you and I have some colleagues, won't name names, who fit into that category, a really strong sciences background, but didn't go down and be, the path of being a data scientist. So this is one of those ones where it really depends. But, if you're a younger listener to today's podcast, I'd say if you're thinking about getting certifications, look at the ones within the given industry in terms of the value and how much other people value and expect a
Right.
certification.
Yep.
Um,
I agree.
so we just talked a bit about skills, qualifications, degrees, which suggests you've had some sort of education, training. Can you outline some of the actual potential career paths within legal tech and data services for the listeners?
Sure. I'll speak to iDS specifically because that's where I've been. And prior, I was at a law firm for a while, as you know. So I think I'm proud to say at iDS, we have some really great success stories of just that. I think about Mark, who, started as a relativity hosting engineer and was a rock star and is a rock star and wanted to then be client facing. And so he moved into this project manager or project coordinator role, and now he's leading the team of DSCs. I've also seen some of our DSCs who have a real strong technical aptitude, interest into some of the consulting around. And so a natural progression there is they're already client facing and they're already knowledgeable about the tools. So it's just a matter of really kind of putting those two together and being a consultant client facing around some of our analytics projects. Another natural career path that I've seen as well is that same data services side and that technical analyst gain an interest in computer forensics. It's such a natural progression as well because you're already in the tools. You understand the importance and need of intake and imaging and so forth, the foundations of computer forensics. And then it takes a lot of cross training and interest and commitment and evidence, then building on collections. And now all of a sudden they are a team using Nuix and going out on-site collections or remote collections. So it's been a great common ground for a lot of those different positions.
You talked about Mark and his progression. We've had other colleagues like Bobby Williams, who has moved from junior forensics to a director. So what are the opportunities for advancement and specialization in these fields?
Great question. There's always opportunities for cross training. We talk a lot about this, as you know. Quarterly conversations, I think, is a great place where it's one-on-one syncs and a great forum for employees to express the interest. And then for managers to really have that conversation with the employee to build out with me a training shadowing program. And we've done that quite a bit here at iDS. I'm always also proud to talk about iDS's professional development budget, that annual fund that can be used for membership dues, conferences, training programs, certifications that we talked about early. It's an incredibly generous benefit and a valuable recruitment tool, I will say, because I'm always shocked, very few organizations offer a training budget.
Right.
And so as a 52-person company, I'm really proud to say that we have one. So I think cross training is a great opportunity. It's taught by some of the best experts in the field, the internal training, and we teach it the iDS way, which it just translate naturally into a progression. As for the actual advancement, I think we talk about this a lot too. Our goal is always to align the progression of the evolving needs of our business, right? So you've got promotions are not only a recognition of the hard work and accomplishment, but it also is a reflection of their value and what they bring to the clients. And that also has to translate into consideration around the bill rate, which will increase and reflect enhanced skills and experience. And those two have to align. And sometimes to swallow is they may be growing faster than what iDS can match at that time. And growth means and advancement means different things to different people. So I think that's where that cross training, the conversations all kind of meet together and ensuring that alignment is is really making us as an organization and to our clients competitive and showing that value add while recognizing the contributions. So between the conversations and the cross training, I think that's where the two meet to provide that the opportunities for advancement.
And just real quick, because I know about the quarterly conversations, been doing them for years, but that was a conscious decision by iDS to move from an end of the year number assessment based on certain criteria to the more frequent interaction between employee and their manager.
Absolutely. And I'm proud to say that the leadership really was on board and supported that. The research will show that they're not effective anymore. I'm sure you, as a manager at all of your other and leader as your other organizations, you can remember sitting down and employee writes their self-evaluation. That workflow then goes to the manager and so forth. And so it's really about how can we facilitate a forum, a structured and focused forum that allows those conversations to take place, not only by you as the manager giving that feedback, but also the employee asking those questions, asking for the feedback. And I preface this with managers, as you know, you see my emails and my prompts every quarter. That is at the bare minimum. Managers should be having more frequent, whether it's weekly or biweekly. I know you're great and committed to that as well. And we're seeing more managers and leaders adopt that as well. So the more conversations that we can have with our folks, the more opportunities and quite honestly, alignment of expectations that occurs.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So the areas that we've been talking about, legal tech and data services, I think are two areas where advancements can happen very quickly. So how do individuals stay updated with the latest advancements, particularly in these areas, both in technology and industry best practices?
Great question.
They're all great because I am great. All right.
Very true.
Okay, great question. Please answer.
Yes, exactly. So I would say it requires a proactive approach, really combining that interest and excitement or commitment to continuous learning. And there's a lot of resources out there, and we provide them. And Jonathan, through your BD and sales and marketing leadership, around conferences, active engagement with the e-discovery community, whether it's through professional organizations, attending conferences like ACEDS, Sedona Conference, I know we're a big part of as well. Women in e-discovery is really incredible to really help provide that community, which is a male-dominated but getting better facilitation of women together and women thought leaders and ILTA and so forth. So I think it's one of the best and most effective ways that we can upskill and continue to. And certainly, like I talked about before, right within our organization are great opportunities as well. LinkedIn is a powerful resource, as we know, for networking, but also following thought leaders through blogs and articles. And again, through your leadership, iDS puts out a lot of content, which is awesome. And we've had even candidates who interview with us or employees who have been hired say, I loved reading that or listening to that blog, or listening to the podcast, reading the blogs, so forth.
Look, if they're doing one or the other, that's great. If they're doing both, we're hiring them right on the spot.
Yep.
You talked about the ability to upskill. I think you also talked about the ability to reskill, but just so the listeners are clear, some of these same resources that you're talking about in the training do both upskill and reskill.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Especially the conferences, we see a lot of our folks, not only from a business development perspective, but also actually attend or get a seat as an attendee is a great way to upskill and reskill. There's a lot of more and more organizations out there who are putting, especially around databases, when you get into the analytics side of the house. Certainly Relativity, I know, puts a lot of content and training out there for relativity specific, especially as they are updating and upgrading and all of that.
Okay. Last question. It's either going to be a compound question or a two-part question. So let's see how efficient I am here. Were you to have a crystal ball, what predictions do you see for individuals looking to get into the space of legal tech or data services, or advance within the space of legal tech and data services? And in turn, how can they prepare for challenges or opportunities that would lie ahead?
Great question. So I'll talk about my perspective as talent and an experience and my HR background of being in the field, talking to a lot of practitioners, and also how IDS has innovative and evolved and adapted to the growing industry. I think increased automation and AI is going to be a big one. Also within analytics and the visualizations, cloud-based platforms, and we've seen IDS just in the last year really move towards more and more cloud-based platforms for scalability and flexibility. So I think that's going to be key with a lot of organizations. From a how can we best prepare, or how can, whether it's college grads or recent practitioners or current practitioners, adapt to that? I think it goes back to a lot of what we're talking about. Networking in the industry, talking to and following thought leaders in the industry. I think exploring machine learning, generative AI tools, not fearing them, but actually leaning into the world. And I know it's a huge conversation in HR, and I'm certainly leaned into it. Tools that understand kind of that context and sentiment, and getting exposure and familiarity with that, I think is great. I've seen a lot of I've seen a big push in computer science, data science, which is fantastic. So it's starting at the college level, whereas, when we went to college, you didn't hear about e-discovery. Even, even going to law schools weren't talking about e-discovery. So I think the more that colleges and even high schools can get students excited about where that industry, where the movement within data and digital footprint is, it's got to start from an education, whether it's at high school all the way up through law school.
Well, appreciate that insight, Melissa. Thank you for that. And actually, I want to thank you for joining me today. I know, as the father of two children who are now adults, you're not supposed to have favorites. We've had a number of people on the podcast. I'm not going to say that you were my favorite, but Coach Deion Sanders of the University of Colorado Buffaloes, SCO Buffs, has his children ranked each day. And if you want to increase the ranking of 1 through 5, you just need to be a better child. So I'm going to say today, for today, Melissa, you've been my favorite guest.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, well, so there you go. So thank you for joining me. I'd also like to thank our regular subscribers and those that may be first-time listeners for spending time with us. If you'd like to learn more about IDS or want to subscribe to our IDS Talks podcast, you can visit idsinc.com or wherever you normally get your podcasts from. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, please hit the like button and the subscribe button. Thank you again for joining us, and I look forward to talking more about data with you on our next edition of IDS Talks.